Hello and welcome. You could be an experienced developer or coder, or you could be a novice. Irrespective of our experience level, we typically go online to find solutions to solve our problems. Now in this video, we're going to test out Copilot and see how it could be an assistant to us while developing with notebooks. All right, now I'm in my notebook here, and as you can see on the top menu bar, we have the option to enable Copilot. So once I click on that, the Copilot pane opens up, and to get started, once I click Get Started, I get this little piece of code added to a cell, and I need to execute this to start with Copilot. Now I finished executing this pane, but basically what it does is it installs the necessary libraries for Copilot, and it also adds some magic commands. As I scroll down, you see some of these commands here. These are called magic commands, and we'll try to use some of them in this video. So I've loaded some data, weather data, into my data frame here. You can see a snippet of the data within the data frame. And let's start with now using the Copilot. Let's start with something simple. So let's say how many rows in the data frame. Let's see what it comes back with. As I type the question, it takes a few seconds for it to come up with an answer. And once it does, it says 10 frames. Now it says 10 rows, but again, I know there's more rows than this, but it's showing only 10 rows. So, not as impressive as I thought it would be. So let me ask a different question. So what I'm going to say is, now give me code to count number of rows in the data frame. Now see, it comes back with some code here, and I can see the code here, and it also gives an explanation of what the function is doing. And I can click on this insert code, and that will insert the code here into a cell. And also, of course, it puts in attention saying that it's generated by AI, so make sure it's right. But I'm going to go ahead and run this, and there you go, it comes back. So this is the number of rows that are there in my data frame. Okay, so that's good enough. And also notice that it also comes up with some suggestions for more questions that we could potentially ask. But I know what's there in the data frame. So what I want to do next is ask the following question. So I'm going to say, filter the element type to AVG. Now, I've not given it any context saying that element type is a column in the data frame. But let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. Now, this is the code that Copilot comes back with. I'm going to again click on this little button here to insert the code into a cell and see what it is. So looks like it figured out that I'm talking about the data frame and the column element type which belongs to the data frame. And looks like it's done a good job of that. So let me execute it. Okay, that looks good. It's given me only element type of t-average. So let me ask my next question. Okay, this is my next question. I want to divide the element value by 10 and add the result into a new column called temperature. So let's go ahead and execute this and see what happens. Now it's come back with the result, and let me again insert the code into a new cell. And notice what it does here is it is using my first data frame that I had used called DF. I actually wanted to work with the new data frame after it had filtered out the element type to t-average. So I want to use DF filtered. So once there is more than one data frame, it doesn't know the context. So maybe I have to be more specific. So I'm asking the question again. I'm saying this time I'm saying I want to perform this operation on DF filtered data frame. Okay, so it's come back with the code. So let me copy this and paste it there. So now, and I don't want to show all the rows, so I can just type in 10, execute that. So this should add a new column called temperature to my data frame and see the results. So it did add a column, and this is my temperature, but I would like to, and here's the temperature column. Maybe I want to see it in a nicer format. So let me ask the question, please format the output of this data frame. Okay, that did not come up with much of an answer. It just gave back df.show, and again, it's referencing the earlier data frame. So this time I'm going to say, please format the output of the data frame df filtered with temp in a readable format. Well, that did not help. Okay, so let's skip that. Maybe I have to be more smart in asking my question, or maybe Copilot has to learn. Maybe over a period of time it'll get better at it. I was expecting it to convert to pandas and give me a better output. But anyway, now another thing I did notice was in the earlier code, it created a new data frame. We could also, maybe I could be more specific and say insert the new temperature column in the existing data frame, and it will do that. Let me try that out. Okay, this time I'm being more specific. I'm saying in the df filtered data frame, divide element value by 10 and add the result to a new column called temperature in the df filtered data frame. So let's see what happens now. Okay, it's come back with results. So let me copy that code, paste it back here, show the first 10 and execute this code. So you see that the result is going back to the same data frame like I had asked it to do. Okay, the next thing I want to do is, right now we have date ID in YYY format. I want to create a new date table. So I'm asking the question here in the pane, and let's see what it comes back with. Okay, it's come up with the output. Let me insert the code and execute it. Okay, so it's come up with some error, and let's see if we can resolve that. Okay, so let me ask the question here, resolve error. Let's see what it comes back with. Okay, so it's come back with this result. It's basically added lit to the import, and I'm going to execute it and see if that resolves the error. And there you go, it did. And it has added date column, and here's my date. So that's amazing. So it was able to just, from my prompt, it was able to do what I needed it to do. So let's see. One of the things is now everything I'm writing in Copilot here, I have to keep copying data into cells. But there are some magic commands we can use to actually write inline in the cell, so we don't have to use the Copilot pane. So here I've created a new cell and used one of the magic commands, which is %describe. Although the documentation says it's % describe, that didn't work. When I typed in %describe, it worked. Basically, it describes the columns within the data frame. And there's also a command called %. This is the command we could use to communicate with Copilot without using the pane. I've started using this a lot, and once you put %, you can just put in your question and execute the cell. And once you do execute, it creates the code in a new cell. And in my case, I'm asking it to group by station and date ID and give me some average temperature. So if I go ahead and execute it, well, in this case, it failed. So let's again use %, code and say resolve the error, and let's see what it comes up with. Okay, and if I execute this code, well, again, there is an error. And so basically what this comes down to is, the Copilot, it does give us some code which is a starting point, but obviously we have to look at the code and change it or update it to our needs, which is pretty much what it does say here. Remember, AI can make mistakes, so carefully review the code before executing. So from what I can see, it does do a lot of the operations pretty seamlessly, at least to get you started. And the best part is it knows the context. It knows where you are in the data frame or what columns are in the data frame. So you can easily communicate with it. And I worked with ChatGPT before, but again, when I'm writing code in a notebook, ChatGPT doesn't know the context. So I have to be more specific, give it more details for it to return the code. But here, since everything is within Fabric, it makes things much more easier. This is one last thing I want to try. Let's say I want to write the data frame to a table in the lakehouse. I'm going to try to see if Copilot comes back with some answer. And it does, and I need to give a table name. So let me go ahead and do that and see if it works. And look at that. That was amazing. Once I executed the code, it took a few seconds, and then the table did show up here with all the data. So so like I said, it's just a start, I think, right now, Copilot is, and it'll only get better in the coming few months and years. Now, one thing to note is Copilot is only available in P1 or F64 and above SKUs. And if you're using those capacities, you need to go into the admin portal, look up for Copilot and enable it in the admin portal. Now, I feel in the near future, as Copilot evolves and improves, this is going to be a real asset to all of us. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video after a few months to see how Copilot has evolved. That's it in this video. If you've got any questions or comments, please reach out to us at www.obviEnce.com. Thank you.